Hi and welcome back to another card making video. Today I'm playing with the June card kit by SSS Stamp, and as always let's take a look first on what's included. Everything comes in this handy zipper bag, and this is a Stickles glitter gel. Then there is a clear stamp set. This is a big one, 6x8, it's called Happiest Wishes, and it comes with adorable animals holding balloons and tons of sentiments to play with. Then let's take a look at the pattern paper, 6x6 pages. These are all from the Sunny Days collection by Paper Rose, and I'm browsing through all the images so you can see what you get, front and back. You know that in these videos I like to focus on pattern paper. You will find lots of inspiration on how to use the stamps after all. So today is another one of those videos where I will be creating 5 cards focusing on these pattern papers. Then you will get 6 holographic envelopes, a really handy tea ruler. I like when you get tools that you can add in your arsenal. Here is a stencil that you can use with the Stickles jar that you got of a sun and rays. And then this is the cardstock, 3 different colors, plus an adhesive page. You will also get a little die sentiment which I forgot to show you in this video. So anyway, let's make some cards. I'm starting with this pattern paper, and I'm starting by cutting it out so that it is a smaller panel. I like to have smaller panels on top of my card base. This way I have a little border and I feel like it makes the card look more professional and finished. Then one of my favorite techniques when I play with pattern paper that have all those little images is to do some fuzzy cutting. So from here I'm going to cut out butterflies, I'm going to cut out the ice cream, I will cut out the leaves, and these are going to be the embellishments for the card front. So now from the stamp set I picked the tiniest of sentiments and I placed them in different random areas of those squares, and I'm going to white emboss them. So here I'm preparing my paper with my anti-static powder bag, then I'm going to use my Versamark ink, stamp the sentiments at once and apply my white embossing powder and heat set it. This is going to give a very subtle look on the sentiments, but they are still readable. If you want them to be more vibrant, you can definitely stamp them with black ink, or even you can go tone on tone. So for example, you can go with blue on the blue square, etc. And I'm placing with foam tape my panel on top of my card base. This is a standard card base, by the way, that's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And then I'm going to add all those cut out pieces on different squares. I like to have them popped, so I'm using tiny foam squares at the back, and I also don't like to stick them directly at the center of each little square. I just like to keep them kind of random and even going outside of the borders. There are plenty of images in that pattern paper that I cut out those images from, so you can definitely fill in all the squares if you want so. I'm going to finish it off by adding some clear bubbles. And here are some close-up photos on the first birthday card for today. Now, one of my biggest tips for pattern papers that give you lots of little scenes is to go the Polaroid way. I like to grab one square die and decide which ones I want to cut out, and you can definitely cut out all of them into squares. And of course, if you don't have nested square dies, you can definitely use your paper trimmer. And then go ahead and cut out white panels, little rectangles, so that you can glue on top those images and they are going to look like Polaroids. And I don't have, of course, specific measurements. I just eyeball it for the first panel, and once it looks nice, then I repeat the same measurements for the rest of the panels. And then it's time to place the Polaroids on top of our card. Here I'm just using one of the pattern papers included in the kit that I cut out in a smaller rectangle, and this is going to give kind of a contrast between those white Polaroids and my card base. Then you can arrange them on top any way you like. I decided to go the random way, but you can definitely go completely neat and stick everything straight. Fun ways to finish off Polaroid cards is to use a piece of washi tape on top of each of one of those Polaroids. They add a really fun touch. And then here is the pattern paper that I cut out the images. At the back you will find lots of sentiments. So I'm going to cut out a few. When I'm playing with double-sided paper, I don't look what's at the back. I try to avoid it because this is going to stop you actually from creating cards, because you will always feel sorry for the other side. So from the other side I did use 3 images. From this side I'm going to use it to cut out sentiments, but you can definitely stamp your own sentiment and save all those images if you want to. Here is a closer look on the second card that makes a great card for the summer. And I'm going to share another tip, one of my go-to techniques when I play with pattern paper. I like to use rectangle dies and place them on top to create different panels that could go on top of a card. So for example, you can go vertically or horizontally with this image, but on the other side you will find lots and lots of images, and I can actually make 3 cards out of this panel, and I'm going to show you how. I like to use rectangle dies as well as square dies, play with different sizes and try to fit as many as I can on top of a pattern paper. This way I can end up with 3 different panels that would make 1 card each. So I'm securing all the dies down and I can run it through my die cutting machine at once, and by the way, at the back I'm going to sacrifice another lovely image, but again, don't feel sorry about the other side. After all, we are going to use this pattern paper to create 3 cards. You can just stick the panels on top of your card bases and add a sentiment underneath. However, I'm going to show you how you can embellish them a little bit more. For the first one, you can use a balloon from this pattern paper, and I'm just going through the pattern papers that I have left off so that I can come up with some ideas. I decided to go with some cutouts from this pattern paper, so I'm going to use some butterflies. And let's put this card together. I do have foam tape at the back and I do have glue on top of the foam tape so that I can slide it before it sticks down. And this is where a T-ruler comes handy, since you can make sure that everything is aligned correctly. And then I have 3 butterflies that I cut out. I'm using foam squares at the back to stick them down. Actually to stick down 2 of them, the biggest one, since I'm not going to bother with the yellow one, it's so tiny, and I'm just going to stick it down with glue. Then I do have enough space to add any sentiment that I like. I decided to go with some ready-made ones. These are by Waffle Flower and I found them so handy to have on top of my craft room. I just have a bowl full of those sentiments, but you can definitely stamp any sentiment from the stamp set and cut it out, or even stamp it directly on top of your panel. I think this is a very versatile design and can be used for pretty much any type of card. And you can definitely embellish this background by adding some flowers if you like, or even you can have some birds. There are so many ways to embellish it. Now for the next card, I have this leftover pattern paper and I'm trying to add something extra on top of my card just to make it look more interesting and not just have a panel of a little scene on top. So I cut out this strip of paper, I glued it on top of my panel, and I did use glue for that layer, but you can definitely go with foam tape. Now for the little scene I'm going with foam tape, by the way, and I'm going to offset it on top of that background. Just trying to add little elements that make the card interesting, but at the same time it's such a super easy and quick design. So here you see I did fuzzy cut a few more images. That little pattern paper with those tiny images is endless, trust me. You will find so many different images to fuzzy cut. So I did create a little flower composition on one corner. I'm placing on top my sentiment, and I'm just creating clusters on 2 corners so that I turn this image into looking more interesting. I have a couple of balloons that I'm going to stick down, and you can definitely add some thread coming down from the balloons if you want to add that extra something. And here are some close-up photos on this card. And I just have to admit that I do have a love affair with pattern paper. Whenever I see a design, I can instantly visualize it on a card. So let's put together the 5th and last card for today. And again for this one I'm going the Polaroid way. Just to show you one more example of this Polaroid technique, where in this case I'm just using a bigger image and I'm going to use only one. And again here you see I'm eyeballing it just to make sure that it looks nice. I need to trim it just a little bit more to be more pleasing. And then I have my focal point. At the bottom of the Polaroid, you can stamp your sentiment if you like. You can do it at this stage. I forgot to do it here, but I'm going to do it later on. And my MISTI came handy for this, since I already had lots of bulk on my card. So for the background, I'm using this pattern paper with the balloons, which I'm going to cut out to be 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, so it is going to cover up completely the card base. You know I like dimensions, so I had to add some foam tape at the back. I'm going to place it on top, and let's add the sentiment to finish it off. This is going to be another birthday card. These are the ones that I use the most. I stamped that with Intense Black ink by SSS Stamp. So these were the cards for today, and if you are still with me, don't forget to click the like button as well as leave me a comment. Links to everything I used can be found down below. I hope that you had fun today, that you got inspired to play with your pattern paper. Thank you all so much for joining me, and I'll see you all next time.